Well, I'm excited for this panel, so we'll just go ahead and get started. Over the last few years, decade really, we've built an incredible performance marketing machine really in this industry, right? We have real-time optimization, precision targeting, automated buying, measurement is everywhere. And now we have AI, which is accelerating nearly every part of that funnel. But the one thing that consumers actually experience, the creative, hasn't evolved nearly as fast as the systems that were built around it. So that's what I'm excited to talk to you ladies about today. Why creative remains one of the biggest drivers of performance, but also like what you all are doing in your roles to close that gap between creative and optimization and performance. So to start, if you each want to introduce yourselves quickly and then answer one question. So what percentage of a campaign's performance do you personally attribute to the creative versus like media, targeting, distribution, and every other part around that?
Hi, I'm Victoria Sjardin. I'm the Global VP at Mars Pet Care for Media and Marketing Excellence. Not my own statistic. If you look at the evidence base, at least half of the ROI is attributable directly to the quality of your creative. So it's a fundamental element when you think about what success is going to look like.
I'm Melody Lee. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Mercedes-Benz USA.
I mean, I can't put a percentage on it, right? So I would say it's a pretty equal split between all of it. You got to get it right. And even if the visual of the creative is great, you got to get the message right. So it's all important. You got to get it all in the right balance.
I'm Liz Roche. I'm the Vice President of Measurement and Media over at Albertsons Media Collective. I think it's hard to say, right? Like Melody, you kind of said it, you hit the nail on the head. It's really hard to extract these parts. Consider you have the right audience and potentially the wrong message, or you have the right message and the wrong audience. Targeting plays a role. Obviously the creative, being relevant really needs to happen. And I think the audience and the timing certainly plays into the relevance, right? Especially with grocery, the frequency is such that you got to hit it at the right time. But if you were to really push me on it, I think about half.
Beverly Jackson, Zillow. I mean, we've long since talked about the idea that marketing is about art and science. And so what we're seeing now is, as someone said at a panel recently, that performance marketing was dead. I don't know that we're willing to accept its death. It will go slowly into that good, sweet night. But I do think that with AI, we're getting a preference and an intentionality about improving the quality and the performance of creative. And so as storytelling and the actual creative gets better, especially for products like yours and mine that have a longer life cycle. So you don't buy a house, but every 7 to 10 years. And so you're thinking about, what do I need to do to nurture people through that process? And a lot of that has to do with the storytelling and the creative, not so much about the performance media and the mix itself, because that gets closer as people become like, as it becomes clearer that they're signaling that we get their buy signal and they're my buy box. So that signal becomes stronger and it's probably more optimized to the performance part of the media versus the storytelling, which is at the front part of it. So I think it matters based on what you're doing with AI to help with creative. I think it matters the cycle of your product. And then I think it just matters in terms of like where people are in the actual buy box.
And Vicky, can I ask you to repeat what you said at the top? Because I could not hear anything you said.
Yeah, so if you look at the evidence base, 50% is the number usually quoted is attributable to the quality of the creative. So, you know, you don't think about that creativity at your peril, because no amount of optimization is going to be able to fix a bad creative idea.
So it's pretty interesting. You all said about the same thing, about 50%. To be honest, I was expecting more of a range based on where you all sit in your vantage points, right? Because each of you come from such a different side of the industry. I mean, Melody, you're on the brand end of the spectrum, from like one of the most iconic brands in the world. Liz, you can literally see people's purchase behavior and what lands in baskets, right? And Beverly, I see you as like in the middle between like the dream and the transaction, right? And Vicky, you're running effectiveness like models across some of the world's largest portfolio of brands in the world, right? So That said, and not seeing as much of a range as I was expecting you all to say, like, why do you think there is this gap, though, between performance and creative, and why we've allowed this to go on for so long as we've been optimizing and like accelerating in all of the other parts, especially with AI? We've been accelerating every other piece of this funnel, but creative hasn't as much. Do any of you have?
So I think I'll start. So she's asking why creative hasn't really like kept pace with the optimization for like performance and that sort of like. I think one of the things that sort of happened is marketers as digital marketing took hold, marketers really needed to provide value for their worth. They needed to do something more than like the CFO got involved. And so you have like these big marketing budgets and the CFO is looking for ROI. And as we've looked to sort of extract value and add shareholder value, that became a big part of it. And so you see lots of brands telling really bad, shitty stories. See, I said a bad word and you didn't hear it because y'all weren't listening. But
They're laughing, they're listening.
I'm just mad on behalf of Melody now. Like, I'm gonna kick somebody's butt. No. So I think what's effectively happened is CFOs have said, I'm not willing to invest in marketing or grow marketing budgets if I'm not going to see the real ROI. But we also now know that it's squeezed and it's getting more and more. Like we've squeezed as much performance out of some of these channels as we can. Like there's nothing else there. There needs to be a differentiator. And we talk about the role that AI will play in this. Someone said, when you're at full capacity in your funnel, what else do you have but the art part of the work, the creative, the storytelling?
And I think people are getting carried away with tools.
Yes.
That's our issue, right?
Yeah.
Like to continually fixate on the tools instead of the strategy that the tool should enable. And I think AI is in that category, and many other things that came before AI are in that category. So I think that's where that split is starting to happen. And we have to be really careful about that.
I think I have a little bit of a different perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, hot take. Love it.
Look, the algorithms have gotten damn good. And I
Yes.
said a swear just to match your swear.
Thank you.
But the algorithms have gotten damn good at serving media, especially in a timely fashion, right? Leveraging conversion data to really make sure that the A message is getting in front of the right shopper. I think what's always been a challenge is the fact that most creative is unstructured, really. How do you structure creative data, right? How do you taxonomize pieces of creative? This is a huge challenge, and it's a huge challenge to do it manually. I think from my perspective, the promise of AI is, can we leverage AI to actually taxonomize creative in such a way that we can start optimizing some of those taxonomized variables the same way we've done with audience, the same way we've done with transaction, in the same way we've done with placement. So I think there's actually a lot of promise, I think, when it comes to leveraging AI to effectively taxonomize and get deep data, metadata on creative. The next play will just be popping it into the algos and figuring out where we can make it rain.
So now I have a really interesting question because she thinks that AI is going to be able to like optimize the creative so that, okay, hot take, right? I said the same thing. Mike, go ahead, go.
I think marketing is unique in the sense that if you think about AI at the moment very broadly, right? It's being applied to coding, it's applied to legal, it's being applied to medical. But that comes from efficiency as growth. And marketing is not about efficiency as growth, it's about effectiveness as growth. And so at Mars, we're very clear that we think of the future and transformation, human first, creativity second, and data and tech third. And actually, we've got some very nice examples of AI driving efficiency and some lower funnel work and a lot of that work that teams don't want to do, right? And that's where AI can help. But where we found examples where we've had AI in the service of effectiveness, last year, for those of you who are cat lovers, any cat lovers in the house? Come on. I'm a dog person, but that's okay. You probably are familiar with a brand called Temptations. And last year there was a campaign that was treat me like a dog. So there's a treat gap. People treat dogs more than cats, right? And that's a really very valuable insight. And that campaign was brought to creation with AI. So it was AI cats as dogs, right? And so I think if we just keep talking about AI as this really big word, AI, it's like social a few years back, right? But like social.
It was
okay,
mobile
which
for a
bit?
while.
Which bit are you talking about?
Exactly.
We're thinking about human creativity, data and tech. We're thinking about AI strategically, and I think that's a fantastic example. Treat me like a dog. We're thinking about that middle bit, which is transcreation, translation, and then, of course, at the lower end, you've got a lot of the e-com, decom stuff with optimization. But it's not performance or brand. It's not short-term ROI, long-term. It's really making sure that as marketeers, we orientate to growth and AI in the service of efficiency to spend more on working, but ultimately effectiveness. I think that's what people are grappling with at the moment.
So there's something really interesting that Liz said, though, around the taxonomy of the pieces of creative and their ability and the system's ability to optimize the algorithms to what's in the segments of the creative. And that to me is like a game changer. Like she was like, hot take on this. I was like, I hadn't thought about it that way.
It's not about actually using AI to generate creative and make it soulless per se, or just whatever, but can we use AI to ingest more data points than a human could ever ingest?
So interesting.
Great for iteration, great for concepting, right? But again, a tool. And I think, again, we should not lose sight of what that means.
I think though that I get back to like, so other than you, Melanie, like Nicole and Liz have short buy cycles on the things that they do. And so there is a way to like push people down the funnel. I struggle with the fact that I have a 7 to 10 year cycle, and I don't know that I can get the kind of optimization out of creative iteration to move people further. Like there's nothing I can do with the creative to move people through that funnel faster. Like I'm not going to make you transact to buy a house or to get a mortgage faster or sell even without the creative part. I'm not sure I can do that. I'm interested in how you'll do it, but yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's actually interesting because I'm in the market for a house right now.
I can teach you a good agent.
I've got a great agent trying to decide if I'm making an offer while we're here this week. So
Love that.
but I think like what you're all also saying is like creative quality does matter inherent like enormously, right? It's just that the creative, while it's not really getting touched while it's in market, right? With the exception of we can say DCO and we can say personalization, but that's really a variation, right? Versus like taking the data that you're saying, like, how do you see that gap and like where is that tension? Like there's that tension between the storytelling and the creative, but like how are we able to and how should we be looking at this so that we can change it not just from a price and item perspective or a variation, but like based on the knowledge and what the AI, what everything is telling us, how do we move faster to actually change that gap? And like, where do you see that tension in there? Does that make sense?
I'm not sure it is a tension, right? I think it's a balance. And imagine if all of us here celebrating the best creativity in the world, suddenly we're like, wow, I mean, we can just, spend the year sitting back, we let AI do everything, and then we'll just come once a year. So to suggest there's a gap suggests there's a problem. I think it's the multiplicity of how we need to think about any tool, right? And we're trying to figure that out at the moment. We are a human function. Like it is about real people in real life with feelings, emotions. We're going to have more pet parents in some countries by 2030, for example, in China, than human children. And so we're treating our pets like part of the family, right? And so if you think about what that means for what those pet parents are going to be looking for, the worries they have, the hopes they have, I don't think we're ever going to be able to imagine a world where creativity is not a human art form augmented with AI.
And I think we talked about this last year, Nicole, so I'm going to bring it back. A luxury brand has a job to sell a product to someone at a price that they rationally know they should not be paying.
That part.
Right? So in order to do that psychological job of getting them to do something irrational, you cannot rely solely on any sort of data or AI because it's irrational. So if you're just depending on all of the data that an AI model has to make those decisions creatively or even on media planning or strategy, you're going to miss something. Getting someone to buy a $150,000 car that you know doesn't actually cost that much is a human factor. It is a psychological job, not a computer's job.
So I want to contrast that with trying to get somebody to believe it is possible for them to afford a $350,000 house when every signal suggests that they can't do it. I can't do that with data. I actually need creative and storytelling to do that for you because I need you to suspend reality for a second.
You got to dream.
Yeah, you got to dream. You got to dream. I got to get you to believe that like you can make that transaction possible and make it happen. And so it's like two sides. I agree with Melody completely. Like I'm not getting that from a piece of data.
I think from the grocery perspective, you know, our loyal shoppers can be in store 2.5 times a week, right? And the relevancy piece does matter. Imagine showing creative featuring gorgeous ribs on a grill to a vegan. It just doesn't hit, right? So the data definitely matters, and purchase data is absolutely a great indicator of future behavior. But I think there's a gap between data and insight, right? And that's really where data needs to drive forward, because it's one thing to say, okay, cool, Melody has been buying soy milk. We know that she's going to drink soy milk. Liz has been buying cow milk. We know she's going to buy cow milk. But it's a whole different story to understand what might inspire or what might drive new purchase behavior. And I think that's really the next element, is how do we take the data, translate it into insight, and then impact behavior moving forward.
It is also, I was just going to say, this is so interesting because I'm a pet parent. I have a little dog. He has his own Instagram. And the amount of money that I spend on that dog is more money than some people spend on their kids. And so y'all have convinced me that this dog needs daycare and it needs treats and it needs little paw solvent so that it doesn't walk on the hot pavement, and it needs an eye wash. And you've convinced me to buy, like the industry has convinced me to buy all that stuff. I don't know that dogs 30 years ago had that.
That's true. But Liz, what's interesting about you, and I say this all the time, like both to my teams and in all conversations, is like data without context means nothing, right? Like it's numbers on a sheet, and like you have to be able to like take that and take the story and the insights, and then that's how you make the decisions. I'd be curious, like what the data in that sense, and you touched on it a little bit, but like how it's taught you about how much creative really moments at that purchase decision moment. Like how are you using that to drive your creative and your messaging based on like what you know that like if I'm shopping or putting something in my basket or I'm walking into an Albertsons store?
Yeah, I think it's about creating that inspirational moment. We creative, especially in retail media, I think everyone thinks retail media, price, promo, pack shots. But it's more than price, promo, pack shots. For the work we did with P&G, which we're actually launching here this week, which is really exciting, really brings that customer insight to life. And we co-developed this soap opera concept to really drive home this concept and this content that can inspire and be really immersive and interesting, but also drive purchase. Food at the end of the day is really fun, though. I mean, consider how awesome it is to watch someone make how many food shows we have on TV every day, right? So I think for us, we definitely have an advantage because food can be really fun and recipes can be really fun, and people want to be inspired. People want to get out of the rotisserie chicken bag salad rut. And we definitely have an advantage to be able to do that. Our brand partners are certainly beginning to lean in. I think a lot of brands are saying to themselves, the algorithms have gotten good. My next edge is creative. And that's been a really fun transition we've seen in the industry for sure.
I can add to that. I think if you're only looking at data at the point of purchase, you're probably too late. Oh, wow, they bought some pet food. Yes. What we're doing at the moment is we're looking at predictive growth audiences. So what are the signals that we know 90 days, 60 days, 30 days before you buy a pet for the first time, right? So start of life. And how do we, in that instance, use those signals to actually be able to serve hugely relevant content, right? For those of you who've been a pet parent for the first time, it's really stressful Like you have so many questions, you don't know. And so if we can help serve moments of joy, moments of reassurance, then actually predictive data signals to get the right content, that's something that we hugely value. The same for some of our brands like Royal Canin. We have world-class science, and we have a portfolio of products that are really for emergency care, right? So if your pet unfortunately is suffering with urinary issues or skin issues. So again, how do you find those data points where people are concerned or they may need something very specialist? That's where we see data and creativity with AI and algorithms that we just wouldn't have been able to do it before as humans, really come together in that value effectiveness opportunity.
I think this is fascinating. Well, we're at just about 2 minutes left. So I do have some lightning round questions, and we can just ask a few questions and you can all answer them quickly and briefly. So we've talked about obviously AI quite a bit, but AI generated content. Do you think that's a threat, a tool, or table stakes today?
Table stakes.
Table stakes.
Tool.
Interesting. What is a campaign that you wish you had made?
Kenny Mitchell's Levi's commercial, Everybody's Got a Butt, the Democratic positioning of his Super Bowl spot. It was right, spot on with culture. It was democratic in nature. It was relevant. It was non-controversial. It was unifying.
I really like how Gillette covered their logo at the stadium for World Cup, and I wish we had thought of something for Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta.
Gillette and Levi's.
Yeah, but guess what? They
Levi's
couldn't
was-
cover our logo on the roof.
It's the only stadium in the U.S. that still has the logo on it.
That's right. Love Gillette's play, though.
I'm going with one of our brands. So we have 8 shortlists. We're super happy. There's a Thai campaign called Lucky Cats. Having lived in Asia, I think is so culturally relevant. I'm so proud of the team, and I wish I'd been part of it. And I hope they get to go on the stage this week.
Congrats.
I can go now. JoJo is the Jewel Osco, one of our banners in the Chicagoland area. Jewel Osco has a creative mascot named JoJo, and I just wish I concepted JoJo. He's the cutest thing on earth.
And then finally, with what is the most overrated thing in marketing today?
AI.
I think the idea of an authentic brand voice. You know, Wendy's went out there, was like clever and cute, and then everybody started to follow suit. Some of us just don't need to have that authentic brand voice. Some of us need to keep the mystique.
Anyone else?
I'm going AI, like AI without discrimination, just the big word. I think that's going to be the word of the week. AI for the 2026 word.
I think we have a novelty problem, and we're forgetting about some of the really cool old school stuff, like in store, the point of purchase, at the shelf edge. That OG moment of purchase, I think, is still super relevant and only coming back tenfold right now.
Customers are your North Star.
Well, great, ladies. I think this was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Dawn, carry on. Talk amongst yourselves.